Do you ever feel torn between following your passion and feeling guilty because you don't feel like you're fully present with your kids and your family? If so, me too. I have been struggling a lot with that lately, and so I thought that it might actually be a good time to come talk about it because I know that I am not alone. And I thought I would share with you some of the things that go through my head and that I tell myself to kind of help through these kind of times, but also I would really love to hear from you what you do and what you kind of tell yourself and how you handle these things too. So recently I have been considering taking a big step in my business, and it's a big deal and it's exciting, and I think that my business is ready for it. I am ready for it as a business owner, but it's a big deal and it is a commitment. And I've been kind of talking with my family about am I going to do this, And I was talking with my sister who has kids older than mine. Her kiddos are 17 and 19. So my kids are 5 and 8. So she's kind of in a little bit of a different phase of life with them. And while she's very supportive, she was like, I just don't want you to look back and feel like you missed things. And that kind of just felt like a whoosh on my chest, just a big weight, because I'm like, oh my gosh, am I missing things? Is this foolish? I worry about it all the time. And I've been thinking about it ever since. I mean, that was well over a month ago, and it still just really weighs heavy. It's something that is on my heart regularly. And some things I'm going to share with you some things that I have been working through as I consider it. So the thing is that balloons light me up. I never, if you had just told me, however many years ago that this is where I would be, and that the thing that I was going to find that was going to be a passion was going to be balloons, I would have been like, what? Like balloons? But they do. I have always been crafty and creative and enjoyed decorating and putting things together. It just is such a perfect blend for me. And I know that that's probably the same for you too. It makes you feel good to create something that is yours and that is beautiful. And I love using that part of my brain. It's very different than my life and my day job as an NP, a nurse practitioner, where I am using a different part of my brain. And, when a balloon pops, nobody dies. And I also really enjoy that about it. But I also have the guilt because it does take time, right? Not just the actual labor of inflating and installing balloons, but if you have a business, it takes time to focus on your business, not just work in your business. And, if this constant worry of are my kids getting enough of me? And am I being present or am I distracted? And if I am physically present, am I also still being mentally present? Am I focusing, or am I just kind of daydreaming up in my head about how I'm going to do that setup tomorrow? Because that does happen sometimes. So there's just this constant push and pull of this thing that I love taking away from these people that I love. And recently I was working, I was on my phone planning out, I don't remember, I was either planning out an install or I might have been on Amazon looking up deals or something like that. But my husband looked over at me and he was like, do you just always feel like you're working? And I was like, no, I don't. I like this. It's fun. It's fun for me. And I was like, do you feel like I'm always working? And he was like, well, kind of. And I felt like that was such a telling moment of to him, it seems like I'm always doing this thing. But to me, it doesn't feel like work, which is so important because what better... The cliche is, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And while that is a cliche and it's not true, and it is still work, and sometimes it does feel work, the fact that I don't always feel like I'm working is so wonderful when it's something that I enjoy doing and that also happens to make money. I don't want to stop doing this thing. So I want to find ways to make it all make sense in my life. So the first thing that I tell myself and that I want to tell you is that these feelings are valid. Mom guilt means that we care. If we're feeling bad about not being present, it's because we want to be present. We care about being present. We value being present. So just by nature of the fact that we're worrying about this, it means that we care. Also, pursuing a passion, having a love for this thing doesn't mean that we love our kids less or our families less. We still love them as much as we ever have and will continue to love them more every day. And that is still true even while we're working on something else that isn't them. Also, kids do benefit from seeing us create and pursue and do something that we love and work and build a business. Ever since I have been doing this, my daughter has been trying to figure out her own business. She's like Trent, she's got her little entrepreneur hat on and is like, well, maybe I could have a business where I sell this or I do that. And she's just always thinking, and I love that for her, that she's already thinking about that at such a young age. And I think that she is doing that because she sees me doing it, and it probably wouldn't even be on her mind otherwise. So it is good for our kids to see us doing this thing and prioritizing something that does light us up, not just something that, the grind. There's also a few mindset things that I try to work through. First of all, presence over perfection, or another way of saying that, this is something that I have told myself since my oldest was a baby, which is mom's mental health is more important than mom being around 100% of the time. It is better for us to have quality time versus all of the quantity, and that presence is better than the perfection of being around all of the time. So some ways that I work on being present and try to be really intentional about being present so that I am mindfully, spiritually, emotionally present and not just physically present is I try to have some rituals with my kids. One of my favorite ones that I will share with you is once a week. There's a Monday mornings. I don't have to be anywhere early in the morning. And so on those mornings, I take my kids to school rather than putting them on the bus. We get a little bit more time together and we do something called puzzles and hot chocolate. Now, this started off as making hot chocolate and doing a puzzle together. And sometimes it still is that, but really it's just turned into doing an activity and also usually eating a thing or drinking. So a lot of times it's hot chocolate. My kids love hot chocolate, but it's not always puzzles. Sometimes we color, sometimes we read, sometimes we play a game together. Sometimes the most recent one this past Monday that we did is they both want some updates to their bedrooms. So we planned out the updates to their bedrooms. It's just time that we are sitting down without distractions and we've done it with popsicles, again, hot chocolate, whatever, it's seasonal stuff, candy canes, whatever. That's not the point. The point is that we are doing something intentional together. And that is our Monday morning ritual. And I look forward to it every week. And I know that they do too. And I protect that time. And doing things like that throughout the week, I have a few others, helps me just feel like we are still getting that one-on-one connection that we could easily just live our lives with blinders on and not get it all if we're not intentional about it. I also have some times in my day where business stuff is off limits, particularly around dinner and bedtime. There's no business happening. We eat dinner around 6 o'clock. I try to spend some time with my kids before dinner. Of course, during dinner, we sit at the table for dinner so that we can look around and talk to each other. Another ritual that we do that I share with you that we really almost exclusively do during dinner time is something called High-Low Buffalo, which I forget where I got it from, but it's where we each share our high of the day, our low of the day, and our buffalo. So the buffalo is something pretty much funny or interesting. And it's a nice way to connect with the kids and without just being how was your day? Who'd you sit with at lunch? What did you do? And that stuff that kids just tend not to respond to. So High-Low Buffalo is another ritual that we do. And again, dinner is another off limits to business time. And that also extends through until my kids go to bed. Business is off limits. I try not to reply to emails or do anything like that during that time. That also just really helps me stay stay present on a daily basis. Another mindset thing that I try to think about is we're always talking about balance, work-family balance, and it makes you think about this teeter-totter or this literal scale where you have to have enough of this and the same amount of this in order to make it perfect. And while, I mean, overall, we are looking for balance, sometimes that's just not fair because things move through in seasons, right? Some weeks in our business are just crazy, and then other weeks are dead. Some months are crazy, and other months are slow. And I think it's a little bit better to think about this seasonally because sometimes I'll have a week where I'm gone for bedtime, 2 or 3 nights of the week, and I just feel between the balloons and maybe I do something with a friend, and then it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't do another thing. I've already been gone. How can I do this? And I have to remember that this is a season and we are about to see each other every single night for the next 5 weeks, and it's going to be fine. And it just feels this will pass. We will move through this. And then other times where it's like, I'm not doing any business right now. It's like, remember that this is a season and the business will come. And I try to take that time to enjoy with like, I'm not having the mom guilt of being away from my kids right now either. So well, overall, yes, I do think it's about balance. I like to think of it in more of this like ebb and flow of things so that I don't get bogged down in how like feeling so bad because I'm busy this week, because I know that next week it will be okay. Another like practical thing that I do to just kind of help me through these kinds of things is I involve my kids as much as I can. I bring them with me for like tear down. They love to pop the balloons. So if that makes sense, I'll bring them with me. My daughter, again, the 8-year-old, she likes being crafty too. So sometimes I'll ask her what she thinks about a setup, or I'll tell her like what I'm thinking, or I'm like, I'm planning this, but I can't think of this, and I'll let her give me ideas. I've taught her how to, inflate and twist together quads, and I just kind of let them. My 5-year-old likes to blow up balloons on the inflator, on the pump, and so I'll let him do that while I'm doing it, as long as it's not getting into like slowing everything way down. But involving them just kind of helps them feel like this is still a fun thing, and they, that it doesn't, like, me doing balloons doesn't have to be this like bad thing that takes mom away, that it just can be something fun for us too. I've also made them water balloons. I can't believe it's taken me this long to think of it. I've never thought to use just a few of my like old one-off random balloons to make some water balloons for them, but I did that this summer and they loved it. It kind of like reignited their love and interest and like gladness that I know and have balloons. They were like, oh, water balloons. So if you haven't done water balloons yet, you probably have. Like, I don't know why it took me so long to think of that. Something else that I do is I work in time blocks. I try really hard to like literally block my time. I even use Pomodoro timers, if you've heard of those. If you haven't, it is where you set a timer I do 25 minutes on. I'll set a timer for literally 25 minutes and I will just work at a thing without distractions for that 25 minutes. And then you take 5 minutes off and then 25 on and 5 off again. And then you can do that. You can do that like a couple of times and then take a bigger break. But putting in those time blocks helps me to be so much more productive and efficient during the time that I want to be paying attention to the business. And then I also have that blocked time with the kids where I'm not Pomodoro timing my time with the kids, but having those time blocks of like, this is work time and this is family time just kind of helps me with those boundaries, because especially if you're a home-based business, which I am, you have to be able to have those boundaries. The other thing that I will do is, if it makes sense, I'll celebrate business wins with the kids. Like, hey, I got this job, let's like celebrate, or I worked really hard on this, like let's go have some ice cream. And like celebrating those wins and the excitement of my business and having like they get something for it. Like sometimes I'll come home from a job and be like, thank you so much for letting me do this, here's $5, just to share with them. Like I appreciate, because I know that my family is working hard for this too in a different way, and my kids of course love that. So having them in on the celebration really helps them invest more emotionally in everything that I'm doing. And then my last tip, and I'm going to tell you this because I need to hear it the most, but just because I'm bad at this doesn't mean that it doesn't need to happen, but that is to rest. It is okay to rest. We need to take time to not do either, and to take time for ourselves, to spend time with friends or our significant others, or watching TV. Like, it's okay to rest. And if we need rest, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with us for needing rest. And a lot of times, again, going back to what I said in the beginning, mom's mental health is more important than mom being around all of the time. Your mental health includes resting. Okay, Teresa, you gotta rest sometimes. I know that's maybe the hardest one of all the things that I've said. So anyway, I you know, if you're feeling this tug of war too, just know that you're not alone. Remember that you matter, your dreams matter, your kids matter, your family matters, all of it matters. And you don't have to choose. It's okay to have more than one thing matter to you and to be juggling, and to sometimes you get it wrong and sometimes you get it right, and that's okay. So if this resonates with you, let me know. Again, if you have some like little mindset shifts or little things that you tell yourself or things that you do to get your kids involved or whatever the case may be, I would really love to hear them. I'm always collecting little tips and methods and things like that so that I can alleviate this mom guilt as much as possible. Again, thanks for watching, you guys, and happy ballooning.